Hi, thanks for joining. So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to talk a bit about metadata navigation using SharePoint's existing metadata store and overall just taxonomy and how to utilize SharePoint's new or SharePoint 2010's new taxonomy features within SharePoint 2010 server and SharePoint just in general. So as I learn more about SharePoint 2010, I'm really starting to like how and why they developed the taxonomy a bit more, and from the 2007 predecessor, and I'm finding it to be a really good contender with respect to views. Um, if anyone knows anything about 2007, you could create views, and those views could determine or filter the type of information you want to see on the screen, and it does serve its purpose, but I find that metadata navigation, and on top of the fact that SharePoint has enhanced the taxonomy components and just overall the metadata store that's now created within 2010, it becomes a rich and potential better contender with respect to showing views and filtering information a lot better and more on the fly, I think personally, with as opposed to using the archaic views from back in 2007. Now, don't get me wrong, the views have their purpose and they still exist within 2010, but I do like how the metadata store and how you can use taxonomy to start filtering your information a lot quicker and faster in tandem to search and whatnot. So what I want to do is I want to show you is how to create columns using the metadata store that is driven from SharePoint 2010 or the metadata application service. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly show you what I'm talking about. So I created a column called departments, and this is actually pulling from the metadata store. Right, so if I can just click on here, I'm just going to give you a quick example of exactly what it's doing. So just gonna log in here. So what this column is doing is it's actually pulling dynamically from the metadata store the the particular um, the particular metadata that we populated into the taxonomy store or the metadata store within SharePoint 2010. So this is a regular document, and what I've done is I've inserted a quick part or a column into this document, and real easy how you do that is you just pull the existing columns within the SharePoint site or within the SharePoint library, and here's my document, here's my departments column that I created, and I just pretty much just add it to this page. So once you do that, because it's a metadata column, you now have this option here to browse. So you click on it, and what we're actually looking at is we're looking at a subset of our metadata within our metadata store. So now what you can do is you can actually just pull information from the store and populate this column from the taxonomy that is developed within your organization. So I find this to be a little bit better than, just using normal columns or a choice column or something like that, because at the end of the day, your metadata store is something that's central and it's specific to a web application, and it can transcend all different types of content types, or not content types, but site collections. So pretty much it's site collection agnostic as opposed to columns which are specific to the site collection where they're in. So what I'm saying is if you created a bunch of columns within a site collection and you wanted to scale out that column list, you literally have to recreate it on every other site collection that you created. And so I kind of like this idea because you achieve the same results, but then it's more agnostic, it's more universal to the whole aspect of SharePoint. So pretty much that's what I wanted to show you guys. And I'm going to quickly see if I can have enough time to show you exactly how I created it. So I'm going to go over to my virtual machine here. So how I did it was I just created a metadata service application, and maybe what we'll do is we'll try to create a new one. So I'm just going to look for it. gonna call it metadata store 2. That's a name. So for all you administrators out there, I'm just quickly showing you how to create the metadata store as well. It's really not that difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it as the default farm list, and then from there I'm going to have to remove the old metadata store, or the original one, and replace it with this one. And I'll show that in a moment. And then I'm going to update the content type hub a little later. Okay, so pretty much what we're doing is we're creating a brand new metadata service store, and what we're going to do is we're going to populate this with our quick simple taxonomy, and then we're going to create a column, and from there we're going to pretty much achieve what I just showed you guys in a couple of minutes. Okay, so now we have our metadata store. And so what we do is, and normally this is your first metadata service application that you're creating. You want to go over to the service applications manager and make sure that the metadata service is actually started. So you want to make sure this web service is actually started, because if you do go into the metadata store, you'll get an error if that is not started. So I'm just going to run back here real quick again. So we're going to go into our store, and so now we have a brand new metadata store. So what we want to do is we want to create a new group. What I have here is I've already specified SP demo admin as the term store administrator. Once you do that, it then opens up the term store to be editable by SP demo admin. So I'm going to create a new group here. Okay. And we're going to create a new term set, and we'll start off with some departments. Create some department names, IT, Okay, so pretty much we have our little taxonomy here. And again, you know, nothing too complex, pretty simple, right? So we've created that. And now we're going to get it there. And now what we need to do is we want to now allow for that service application that we just created. We want this to become the de facto as opposed to this one. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into, I believe it is applications, and then under service applications we're going to configure service associations, and we're going to go to the default proxy group. And what we want to do is we want to now set our new metadata term stores as the default. So we're just going to click on here, set as default, so click, make that the new default, and now pretty much we're ready to go into our web application and create a column based off of that metadata. So here is our web application again, and what I will do is I'm going to create a new library. Pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new column within this library that's pulling from that term store taxonomy that we just created. Okay, so what we do is we just go into the library settings as I just did, and we're going to create a new column, and we're going to call it departments. Call it departments 2, And you're going to see a name type called manage metadata at the bottom. Click on that. And this is just a little version advising that earlier versions of some client programs might not allow for this type of column. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are now going to pick and choose exactly what we want to be pulling from this particular column. So here is my metadata store, the second one that I created, company X group. And what we want to do is we want to pull all the information, or the taxonomic information from departments. And yes, sorry, I spelled departments wrong. I'm going real quick, so sorry about that, guys. And so pretty much that is all we need to do. And we can also specify default value. So I love my IT, so I will specify that as a default value. And pretty much that's it. There are a couple of other fields that you might want to review or take a look at, and but at the end of the day, this is pretty much the bulk of the options here, or the bulk of the columns functionality. So I click on OK, and then now we have a column that now pulls from our metadata. So now if I create a new document or anything like that, or update anything that is deriving from this library, it will be able to pull from our metadata. Right, so pretty much it's just a different way to, or better, I find a better way to kind of aggregate information and just pull information together all at once, essentially, within SharePoint. And so again, here is our browse, and now we can search through our metadata and pull information from the metadata as opposed to a column. And again, like I said, columns are very sovereign, or not very sovereign, but they're pretty much stuck with the site collection. And little short of, taking that site collection and exporting it or importing it into another site, those columns will not be retained in any other respect. Or if you want, you can back up and restore the site or whatnot. But under normal circumstances, when you create a new site collection, all those columns don't exist within that site collection. And at least with this, you have an agnostic opportunity to pull that information, and you can use it within all different types of web applications and whatnot. So the other piece that I forgot to mention is, go back here, is how it actually transcends content types and whatnot not content types, but site collections is, within the metadata store, you have the opportunity to pretty much syndicate your information. So you can syndicate your metadata and your columns using the metadata store or the service application. So pretty much all you'd have to do is you just specify your specific content type hub where you want to allow for syndication and for other site collections to pull metadata from this particular site collection, and now all other site collections will consume that information that is being pulled from that content type hub. And essentially, once you set that up, you would then go into the site collection here. I know I'm showing a lot of stuff here. It's probably boring by now, but sorry about that. It's fun stuff. You go to site collections, and then you would specify this to be a content type hub syndicator. And like it says, provisions the site to be enterprise metadata hub, and I already have it here turned on. Right? So pretty much at the end of the day, I just wanted to show you guys how to utilize, or better utilize, columns and metadata, and optimize your ability to utilize SharePoint in a feature-rich system such as this, and just pretty much allow for you to aggregate as much information and pull as much information automatically as possible. Hope you found it interesting. Thanks for listening.